Julia Stephen died in 1895, aged only 49. As if her mother's death was not enough for the naturally oversensitive Virginia, her father was so overcome with grief and self-pity that he made no attempt to come to terms with his loss. Virginia had her first nervous breakdown. The lot of looking after her fell to her half-sister, Stella, who took over the running of the household. Soon she became engaged. Her stepfather was not prepared actually to stop the marriage, but the prospect of losing his new prop so soon after losing Julia filled him with such despondency that he insisted that Stella should continue to live in his house after the marriage. A compromise was reached. Stella married, and she was gloriously happy for 3 short months before she died. In 2 years, the settled happiness of Virginia's childhood had been irrevocably destroyed. By now she was lonely. Her half-brothers went to work, her brothers were away at school, and Vanessa was out much of the time. Her father became increasingly gloomy and withdrawn, and Virginia's excursions into the social world were failures, since she had no small talk. Something which probably affected the rest of her life were the sexual attentions of George Duckworth, her half-brother. It seems that his sympathetic embraces developed into something rather less brotherly. It is impossible to say whether these incidents contributed to her mental instability, but they must have been at least in part responsible for her inability to sustain a sexual relationship when she married. Virginia was also the main recipient of the emotional demands made by her father. Her resentment was tempered by her appreciation of his intellectual integrity. For support, she turned to an older woman, Violet Dickinson, to whom she remained emotionally close for some years. In 1904, Sir Leslie Stephen, for he had been knighted in 1902, died. Virginia was filled with guilt, forgetting his faults and convincing herself that she had failed fully to appreciate his good qualities. Her grief and morbidity became such that those around her realized that she was approaching madness. She heard birds singing in Greek and tried to commit suicide by jumping out of a window. Vanessa, Toby, and Adrian were eager to leave 22 Hyde Park Gate, which Henry James had called that house of all the deaths. They moved northeast to Bloomsbury, which is made up of a series of leafy squares surrounded by solid early 19th century houses. Suddenly they were freed from the strict conventions of their class and age.